Hey everyone, welcome to Mountain Beast Mysteries. I was recently listening to a story of an encounter with the Yeti that a gentleman had. He was an East Indian guy and he was passing into Tibet and he was having a fever. He had a bunch of physical stuff going on, I think probably just because of exhaustion and altitude sickness. But they were in Tibet, they were at some village, and this gentleman, I think he was resting, and when he woke up, he was pretty much face to face with a Yeti-like creature. And it was just the man. He had a lantern beside him that was emitting some light, and in front of him was this Yeti creature who he claimed had almost like a wet dog smell and was making some weird noises that are kind of unusual. But the interesting thing is that this gentleman saw this thing after waking up from, sleeping and having a fever. And it makes you wonder, when people are going through very stressful situations or physically intense situations, like a lot of times that can cause hallucinations. This is very common amongst like mountaineers and outdoor enthusiasts. They call it third man syndrome. You'll hear of stories where people will be, facing incredible odds in the outdoors, in the wilderness, and they have to keep going, and they're at their wits' end basically, and then they end up encountering a person or seeing a person who kind of like guides them to where they need to go to safety. And it's a crazy phenomenon that occurs called third man syndrome. And they're basically hallucinating, seeing another individual, or maybe it's an animal, or maybe they'll hear voices. That's very common as well, is to just hear voices that help get them out of whatever situation they're in. But what is that? Is that actually just hallucinations, or is it something else? I wonder if somebody's in a very dire situation out in the bush, I wonder if a Yeti type creature or a Sasquatch type creature would, make an appearance to try and help a person. I wonder if they would do that. Or I wonder if they would just let somebody die out in the wilderness if they wouldn't interfere. Imagine you're journeying through the Himalayas, you're on a trek, things aren't going well, maybe you're out of food, maybe you're lost, Things can go down the crapper in a hurry out in the wilderness. But imagine you're in a survival situation like that, and you see something that you can't explain. The stresses on your body can cause hallucinations. That is a fact. That is a fact. But why would people hallucinate the same thing? Why would people hallucinate an 8-foot tall, hair-covered beast? Like, out of anything that they could hallucinate, that's what it is. There might be something more to it. Maybe something spiritual or supernatural. First Nations people regard the Sasquatch as a supernatural creature. I think we should investigate that side of it further than we are. Because people always say, oh, well, you should listen to the First Nations people, listen to the Indigenous people. Those same people will not accept the supernatural aspect of Sasquatch, or the Yeti in this case. So they're full of shit, essentially. In the book The Long Walk by Slavomir Rawicz, that's the story of the World War II POWs who escaped Siberia, and they trekked all the way through Mongolia and into the Himalayas. And in that book, they have a similar experience where they're traveling through the Himalayas. They're in a dire situation, a survival situation. Like, these people are very close to death, moving through the harshest of environments with nothing other than the clothes on their back, basically. Well, these guys end up having a Yeti experience, a Yeti sighting, and they spotted them from like a little ways away, but they were able to make observations of these things for, I want to say it was something like an hour. It was a long time. I don't know the exact duration, but it was a long time. They were able to observe these Yeti creatures. But in this case, they all saw them. According to the book, I mean, They could have just thrown that into the book for effect. But at the same time, they put that chapter in the book right at the very end of the book, pretty much. It's almost kind of put into the book as a second thought. Like, oh yeah, this happened, by the way, at this point in time. So, are these stories true? Are they hallucinations? When we go out even into the wilderness in North America, some people do get affected by the altitude in parts of the Rocky Mountains. If you're not used to those elevations, they will affect you. I experienced mild, very mild altitude sickness when I was in Peru hiking the Inca Trail. But I never had any experiences where I was like hallucinating. But they would give us like coca leaves to chew on to help with the effects of altitude sickness, which is what they make cocaine out of apparently. So they would give us these leaves to chew, or you'd make tea with it. There was like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they would make coca leaf tea for us, which is pretty crazy. Maybe I didn't feel any of the effects because I was constantly drinking that tea, but I never saw anything unusual. But it happens to people out here occasionally, so I wonder if some Bigfoot reports are caused by hallucinations. You know, just take somebody who's like out of shape too. Out of shape, they go to the mountains thinking they can do some trek. They start the trek, and before they know it, they realize they're not cut out for it. So they're physically exhausted. Maybe it's like 30 degrees out. You know, maybe they're scared and stressed because they put themselves in a situation that they shouldn't be in. And all these things happening to the body and the mind cause it to hallucinate. Stress can cause you to hallucinate. And then you could end up seeing something that you can't explain, or hearing something that you can't explain. But like I said before, people would have to be hallucinating the same thing. A giant hair-covered, upright hominid of some kind. Yeah, that just doesn't seem plausible to me, that people would hallucinate the same thing, the same kind of creature, especially in varying parts of the world. It seems very unlikely that that would happen. It's almost more likely that they would, you know, just see a Sasquatch or see a Yeti. At this point in my life, after researching these subjects for so long, they don't seem crazy to imagine like actually happening. Like having a Bigfoot or a Yeti experience, it doesn't sound that crazy anymore, because you know the possibilities. You've heard all the experiences and all the accounts. And people that you trust have seen these things. So it doesn't seem that crazy. It doesn't seem that crazy. It seems crazier that people are hallucinating the same thing. But it is possible, if you are aware of the subject of Bigfoot or of the Yeti, say you've been traveling through the Himalayas, you've heard stories of the Yeti, then you go off on some sort of adventure up in the mountains, wondering the whole time if you're going to see something. Well, then you end up getting altitude sickness, or you end up, getting severely fatigued because you were thinking of that. You might see that. Your previous knowledge could affect what shows up in your hallucinations. Definitely possible. But when multiple people see the same thing, like those guys in the book The Long Walk, like they all saw them. Multiple Yeti creatures. I can't say it's impossible, but it's highly unlikely that they all witnessed the same thing and described the same thing.
Welcome to Mountain Beast Mysteries Beyond Bigfoot, the new place to get access to our exclusive members-only content. Beyond Bigfoot features 2 new Mountain Beast Mysteries shows, Beyond Bigfoot and Diving Deeper. In Beyond Bigfoot, we look at essentially every other mystery in the world of the unexplained. We're not holding back here at all. We're going to be talking about everything from the Shadow People to the Skinwalker Ranch to time travel.
The dog can sense that there's something up with these things. They're like a malevolent, bad entity.
In Diving Deeper, we focus on mysteries of the ancient world. Everything from the pyramids of Giza to the Ark of the Covenant to the Nazca lines in Peru.
For the last I guess over 100 years, people have been wondering and trying to figure out what this thing is, who made it, what is it for? How does it work?
Some of the episodes you can expect this month are the Hoya Baciu Forest, Ouija boards, Giants of North America, the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, Skinwalker Ranch, the Dark Side of the Moon, and the Pyramid Mystery. Both of these shows will have new episodes every Monday and Friday. But that's not all. We have a third program that really ventures beyond in terms of subject matter. The Fungal Experience discusses the highly controversial topic of psilocybin and psychedelic mushrooms. We discuss the spiritual aspect of psilocybin, and I share my own personal mushroom experiences. I gotta warn you though, this is a series that is quite personal, and I don't hold back. It gets very weird, and some of you will definitely be uncomfortable. On top of everything I've mentioned, members have access to my collection of unedited, raw UFO footage, which I've shot over the course of the summer. I welcome you all to have an unedited look at all of my footage, and I challenge you to discover things in these clips that I probably missed. Now, if you're a current Patreon member, don't worry, you all get access to this for free. Just go to the Mountain Beast Mysteries Patreon page, and there you'll discover how to get free access to Beyond Bigfoot. Go to mountainbeastmysteries.com/beyondbigfoot and hit the gray sign up now button to get access to all of our new video content. I hope to see you all there.
It seems like for the Yeti, there's a lot less evidence that has been gathered. There's less people out looking for the Yeti. Out here, Bigfoot is so popular, because we have so many groups online and we have this crazy community. The subject of Bigfoot is growing rapidly. It's growing. It's getting bigger. More and more people are going out looking. More and more people are getting interested in the subject and getting kind of captivated and obsessed with it. But on the other side of the world, in like Tibet and in India and Nepal, it's not like that popular. It's not like it is here. They don't have all these crazy Facebook groups talking about it and spreading the word, and it just seems like there's a lot less going on in the world of the Yeti. Not a lot of people from North America are going there to look for the Yeti. It barely happens. It's a hard place to get to. The Himalayas. The Himalayas are part of Asia. They're very close to China, and in China, that's where they found Gigantopithecus remains. So geographically, where the Yeti is really close to where a nearly identical creature that actually existed once lived. So when you think about it, it makes total sense that there could be something out there that is very similar to Gigantopithecus. And in like India and Asia and all throughout those parts, there are a lot of different species of primate that still thrive there. Like a lot. So it's almost more possible that there is a Yeti-like creature in the Himalayas, even more so than here in North America having the Sasquatch. It just makes more sense when you look at like the distribution of that kind of wildlife, of primates. We're obviously not going to get like chimpanzees out here in the Rockies of Canada. We don't have other monkeys here or primates. We just have people and potentially Sasquatch. But out there you have many different species of primate that do exist. So there could totally be something out there. Could be hallucinations, could be another type of primate, could be hoaxes, obviously. It also could be bears. There's lots of different bears that exist out in those regions, the Tibetan brown bear, the Himalayan brown bear. And when those bears stand up on their hind legs, they're tall. If you see it from a distance, you very well could mistake it for something. And especially if you're tired. If you are tired and stressed out and fatigued, and you saw a bear standing up in the Himalayas, you very well might interpret it as a Yeti. There's so many different factors that can trigger a hallucination, and being in an unusual environment that you're not familiar with, that you don't feel comfortable in, mixed with all the stresses of, outdoor adventure and, all that, the exhaustion that comes with that, I think there's a very good chance that could cause you to see something that can't be explained. So, Is the Yeti real, or is the Yeti just a figment of our imagination? Well, we can't say for sure. But I don't think people are hallucinating the same thing. I really, really don't. And then you got all the local reports, people who have claimed to have seen the Yeti. They have ancestors who've seen the Yeti, you know? And you like to think that people who live in a certain area, who have been there for generations, you like to think that they know what they're talking about when they are describing wildlife. They're probably very accustomed to the local wildlife. You know, they've been growing up around them, they've seen them their whole lives. Is the Yeti just a tall tale? I spoke to a lady who climbed Mount Everest. I think now she climbed it 10 times. Summited Everest 10 times. I asked her about the Yeti, and she said, as a kid, she was told about the Yeti in the same sense that we hear about Indigenous groups in Canada talking about the Sasquatch, to keep children in line, to scare them into behaving, basically. She was told the same thing about the Yeti, which was very, very interesting. And then you wonder, why would different cultures from different sides of the world tell the same story? You know, it's one thing to tell a story about like a monster of some kind. You know, you better behave or this monster is gonna come get you. But to both be describing a giant hair-covered man-like beast is kind of unusual. But we live in a very unusual world, and you know, there always seems to be more questions than answers. And we're finding out more weird things every day about, you know, a lot of different things about history, the ancient world, you know, the cosmos. When you think about it, we really don't know that much. But we like to think we do. A lot of scientists like to think that they know a lot. I feel like science holds itself back a lot of the time, based on people having careers built on certain theories and ideas. It holds science back, you know? Nobody wants to go out there and like propose a new idea of something that is like weird or taboo, you know? Which is unfortunate, but hey, maybe in the future more people will come out and you know, professionally want to search for the Yeti or the Sasquatch. One can only hope. But that's all I wanted to talk about today, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Mountain Beast Mysteries.